Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us Friday morning. I am so impressed that all of you made it this morning. Welcome to this partner-focused session about monetizing and delivering business value with Copilot extensibility. My name is 𝗦𝗲𝘀𝗀𝗶ecie. I work on the Copilot Studio product marketing team, and you'll get to meet with Jojo in a little bit, as well as one of our amazing partners who's going to share how they've been exploring this journey. But to get us started, I want to take a few minutes just to orient ourselves in really what is extensibility doing in customer conversations. The biggest question that we're hearing from customers in every conversation that I have is them asking, how is AI going to drive real business impact? I think there's this tension that we always see that maybe a little bit of productivity gains is great across Copilot, but my customer, the decision maker, is looking for real tangible ROI. And what we've started to see, and what we'll talk about today, is that the key to justifying ROI is thinking about the business processes that you are impacting. And there are all kinds of business processes across functions, horizontally across your organizations, whether it be simple things like employee self-help in HR, all the way through to very complex things like procurement and quote to order. But these are all business processes, and they all have tangible costs and tangible revenue associated with them. And so looking at them as opportunities for AI to make an impact is where you can really start explaining to customers the potential of what's to come. You've heard a lot about Copilot and agents this week, so I'm going to do it one more time. You can all tune out because you're probably exhausted, but you'll get Thomas's take on it. We believe that there's real magic in both of these key concepts living together. You've heard about Copilot for a long while. We believe that Copilot is a personal assistant, that it's a one-to-one relationship where every employee will eventually have their own personal Copilot, that it will be helping them to get work done. But we also believe in the second concept, which is agents, that every business process has the potential to be transformed with agentic value with an agent. Agents are AI systems, they're experts in their subject matter, and they work not on behalf of an individual, but on behalf of teams and organizations to accomplish business processes. We believe that there will be lots of these agents, that it won't be a one-to-one relationship from employee to Copilot, but it will be employee to Copilot to a constellation of agents. And so you've heard Satya talk about this slide, but that's really what it's representing. This is Copilot. We call it UI for AI, but what we mean is that there's a relationship of human, Copilot, and mini agents. And when we start talking about business processes, those agents are what's solving it. When we start talking about real tangible ROI, that first proof of concept that customers are looking for, we think it's going to take the form of an agent. And this is so important because agents are relatively new. Transparently, 60 days ago, we weren't talking about agents. It was September 16th when we made the first announcement about Copilot agents. So this is fast. And so that's why you're hearing a lot about it this week, because there's a lot of learning to go do. We believe that Copilot agents will come in all shapes and sizes. There are many that already exist today, available throughout our first and third-party ecosystem. Microsoft has created some agents. You can think of things like Copilot for Sales. You can think of the autonomous agents that we've announced across Dynamics 365. You can think about the agents that we disclosed on Tuesday, like Interpreter or Employee Self-Serve as part of Microsoft 365. But there are also many other agents that already exist, and the potential for creating custom agents for every single one of your customers is incredibly high. And we believe Copilot Studio is at the center of how you're going to make these agents. To be clear, you can go build an agent in Visual Studio, accessing Azure AI Foundry services in a code-first environment. I encourage you to go try and do that. There's a lots of learning curve to go do that. With Copilot Studio, though, we recognize that there's probably an 80-20 rule where the majority of the business processes that your customers are facing can be built with a simpler solution where you don't need to build a custom orchestrator, build a custom RAG instance. You can leverage defaults that are based in Copilot Studio to move faster and build what you need more quickly. And when we think about agents, I'll put a little plug here of how we define different categories of agents. We see agents existing on a spectrum to address different customer needs. And Microsoft's definition of agent is intentionally very broad. We believe that there will be simple agents that are all about information retrieval, that live in a prompt and response world where a user comes to them, asks a question, and gets a response. You can imagine an HR agent. I want to know about what is our leave of absence policy. And the agent is grounded in a bunch of knowledge about your company, and so it queries that information and answers it back to the user. You can make that agent more advanced, where it starts being able to take on tasks and actions on behalf of the user. And that's this middle category, but it's at the request of a human. And this is taking that same leave of absence example, adding in the ability to say, okay, I'd like to request a leave of absence. Well, if you were to do that today, that would likely mean you need to talk to an HR representative, they need to reach out to your manager, they need to file some paperwork, etc. Imagine an agent being empowered to take those actions, to start filling out the form for you based off of what they know about you for your leave of absence. And finally, the most advanced agents are ones that we're just starting to get into now. We announced the public preview of autonomous agent capabilities inside of Copilot Studio on Tuesday. You can go play with all of this now today. But autonomous agents operate independently. They don't require a human to prompt them. They're instead based in triggers and other activities that initiate their behavior. To put in a plug, the next session in this exact room, we are going to do a demo palooza where we're going to walk through building each of these 3 types of agents. You're welcome to stick around. Should be fun. It's my own little sales job there. But with that, I'm going to jump over to my other laptop, and I want to draw this for you and walk through it, because this is what I do with every single customer in how I talk about what is an agent. And I think it's incredibly helpful when you start the brainstorming of what you're going to go build and innovate. So I describe every single agent as, first of all, starting with some kind of user experience. And my pen just stopped working. There we go. There's some kind of UX. In many agents that are installed into Microsoft 365 BizChat, that UX is actually Copilot. And so when we start saying Copilot is the UI for AI, that's actually the plugin where you have the premier user interface to attach your agents to that users are excited to be using. But then you start getting into the meat of how an agent actually works. And so first, you need some kind of orchestration engine. We call this the Microsoft Orchestrator. There we go. And this is where we keep track of all of the different moving parts of an agent. This is where we do responsible AI checks. This is where we do user authentication. And we keep all of the moving parts, all of the trains on schedule. There's, of course, a connection here where we're supplying information to the UX. Now you start customizing that agent to serve the business process that you need to serve. And you do that in 3 different ways. The first is that you need to think about what knowledge you're adding into the system. This is things like graph access. This is the RAG that you're doing. It's also connectors into other data systems, like line of business solutions. Every single business process needs data to run. It could be a sales process, it could be a procurement process, it could be an HR system. So you need to arm that agent with some information. The next piece, just like if you were hiring a new employee, what skills does this agent need? What API calls or actions do you need to enable the agent to go do? What other multi-agent systems does it need to be able to go call? So imagine a world where you actually have nested other agents. And then finally, we think about kind of the newest area of autonomy. And this is where you introduce planning capabilities, triggers that allow the agent to act without a human interaction. The reason I draw this is because all of these pieces represent the system of the agent. And as a partner who's helping a customer, you need to figure out all of these pieces before you go and say, let's just throw that prompt to the large language model. In fact, just throwing a prompt to a large language model isn't going to do a lot when you're trying to do a very specific and custom business process for your customer. And so thinking about how you're structuring the knowledge, the skills, the autonomy, before that orchestrator finally hits the foundation models is critically important to that journey of making a business process into an agent. And this is where your LLMs exist, where your small language models exist. Yeah, take a picture, that's wonderful. I draw this in every single customer meeting that I have. And what's cool about it is you can now go open Copilot Studio and you will actually see there's a category for adding knowledge into your agent. There's a category for the instruction set that you use in the orchestrator to modify its behavior. There's a category there to go fill out the goals for autonomy, the actions and skills, the API calls that you're enabling the agent to go take. And of course, we're still governing all of that with the Copilot control system, using user authentication to keep it secure. But you're now able to think about business processes in a way that is factorialized. You can turn that into a factory to say, let's talk about what are your top 5 business processes. Let's think about the knowledge, skills, and autonomy we need to add. And let's start building agents with you to solve those business processes. There are a lot of customers that are getting started with this. So look at how good I am at switching screens and like, whew. So we're just going to keep going here. So I'm going to play a quick video. It's about 1.5 minutes. You're going to see 3 different customers. I want to tell you a little bit about them afterwards, but let's watch the video, see some real agents and what they're doing as impact inside of business processes.
At Unilever, we believe there is a huge opportunity in the end-to-end marketing model to leverage Copilot, transforming a largely manual part of our marketing process, the brief.
At the brief kickoff meeting, without even prompting, Copilot could begin to gather all of the relevant content across data sources. It could create a first draft, and when that's ready, share it with relevant stakeholders for their review. We call this smart briefing. That's quite powerful.
This is not just about embracing change. It's about strategically positioning 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗃 for the future while maintaining our core mission of delivering superior legal service. The Copilot agent, working alongside the lawyer, can autonomously identify risks, confirm the inclusion of required documents, and notify stakeholders of next steps.
That just allows me and my team to be free and available to deal with much more complex issues. So the concept that you could have your own personal compliance agent is so exciting.
The beautiful thing about Copilot agents is it can connect into our existing ecosystem. When a potential fraud scenario is identified, the agent will autonomously go and gather the relevant information from that source system, perform an analysis, and provide that analysis back to the fraud colleague. That always ensures that a human's in the loop. We actually built a working prototype in the space of a week.
It enables us to operate at scale and at speed, efficiently, accurately. It allows us to take control over areas that we need to be focusing on to improve our customer experience.
So we were actually in London a month ago. It's where we first announced autonomous agent capabilities on 10/21. And so we had a chance to meet with all 3 of these customers in London. I don't know if you noticed, they're all in the UK. Unilever, 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗃, and Pets at Home are all using autonomous agents, the most advanced of agent capabilities. Unilever's using it to, in advance of their client meetings, their internal client meetings for marketing projects, to essentially fill out those briefing documents based off of all of the context within their company's data. 𝗦𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗃 is using it as a legal review document. It is replacing part of the job of what paralegals are doing for their team today, looking at documents as they're uploaded to a SharePoint site, determining what type of legal contract they are, and validating that all of the pieces are in place. Pets at Home is using it to review customer interactions around returns and fraudulent activity, where it's pulling in information from a variety of different line of business systems in order to accelerate checking whether or not a fraudulent activity is taking place. You can see how each of these examples is not just saving a few minutes for an individual. It's actually saving multiple days in business processes across organizations and teams. And that's what's so exciting about the potential for agents. And I think you can imagine every single one of your customers thinking about that first scenario that you can go in and show real ROI in. So with that, I am now going to invite Steve Elson from Cyclotron, who is a fellow partner, and we're going to talk a little bit about the journey he's been on. Welcome, Steve. Pick your chair. Which one would you like?
I'm good right here.
So let's get started. How have you been doing? How's the week been?
It's been a whirlwind.
Yeah.
As you can tell from my voice, I've been talking a lot, so I apologize for the scratchy voice.
Well, let's start with the kind of most basics. How is Copilot extensibility fitting into Cyclotron's go-to-market?
Yeah, we've been on the journey since the very beginning. We were fortunate enough to be invited, like even pre-EAP, to be involved in some of the development and planning because of our position. So right now, I'd say, Copilot, when you look at it all up from an AI perspective, represents probably about 63% of our business right now.
You have to say, like, 63% is a big number.
Yeah, because when we're talking Copilot, I think Satya, and you reiterated again, the UI for AI, right? So we have to think of Copilot as the interface that our clients are using for generative AI.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit earlier about this versus kind of the security wave that took place 5 years ago now or so. Like, how do you see those comparing?
Yeah, that's sort of how it fits with the go-to-market, right? Is the fact that you need to look at all of that, right? So in addition to all the stuff we're doing with Copilot, we are also the Compliance Partner of the Year this past year, because as Satya said, right, there's that security perimeter. This is about data governance. It's about, adoption, extensibility, right? All of these use cases, what's driving the ROI. So when we look at, even the videos you showed, right? It's all about how do we use generative AI to drive more business value on a daily basis. And that's really been the key, and that's been our go-to-market.
Yeah. Can you share a couple examples? Like, where are you seeing customers see success at the start?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is around identifying those use cases within the business. So I think, a lot of us as partners have focused a lot of our time working with the IT departments, but Copilot is not about IT, right? Copilot is about the business and talking to the business about those use cases. So as you showed in the videos, right, a lot of this is talking to the marketing and HR, procurement, customer service, right, is a very big area where we're involved, right? Because everybody's trying to decrease the number of clicks, the amount of time it takes to solve an internal customer service or an external customer service need. So it's all about finding that alignment to the ROI as opposed to just the productivity.
I mean, out of curiosity, how do you think of balancing like those talking with a functional leader versus talking with the IT leader? Like, how do you balance those conversations?
Yeah, well, I think the reality is the business leaders, functional leaders, are the ones who are actually clamoring for the solution. Like, they actually are all going to IT saying, how can we use this, right? How do we get access, right? So what we're seeing is they're ready to think about these ideas, right? As the video showed, right?
Yeah.
We've actually talked to a few of those clients in the videos because they're just looking for ideas. Like, where do we go? Where do we leverage this? What do we need IT to do for us to enable it, which is the other piece of it. Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's the positive side of the story. Like, what are the challenges that you've been running into in all of this?
I think the biggest challenge is one that Satya laid out literally as he walked on stage, which is the data governance scenario, right? Everybody has had security by obscurity from a data perspective all these years. And now with AI being able to go search inside of everything and find it, you now need to really make sure you got your house in order. So I think that's been the biggest challenge, is we've seen a lot of clients who have started on that journey but aren't mature enough, so we have to get them there in parallel to having these conversations, because the idea is we don't want to slow it down, right? We want to show them, okay, the compliance governance piece can be incremental, right? You can still do this development in the areas that you need it to drive innovation.
Yeah, I mean, I'll share from Microsoft. I showed that slide with a spectrum of the simple retrieval agents versus task agents versus autonomous agents. I think we relatively inside of Microsoft keep track of our security fairly well. Our document retentions and our organization across SharePoint. But we actually made the decision that we will allow all employees to access Agent Builder inside of BizChat to create those knowledge retrieval agents. but we have a center of excellence team inside of IT where functional leaders meet with that team to discuss what they'd like to do, and then only those folks are able to build those more advanced agents because we want to manage that risk.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of the clients are going about it the same way, right? You have to have a COE for this, just like you would for Power Platform workflow development, right? It's the same concept, but that means you can let people build a lot of stuff themselves to a point, and then they have to come back for approval and/or additional development from the actual IT team.
And I mean, to me, that is part of that partner opportunity of being able to be that center of excellence for every single customer.
Yeah, and I think, when you think about where does the partner fit in, it is guiding that. It's coaching the client, getting them started on that journey, helping them build those first few agents, right? I think the other side of it is you need to be able to support that full conversation. The client wants one organization to be their trusted advisor on the journey. So as an organization, if you don't have that full capability and they have to bring in other organizations to help with that, they need a security advisor, they need an Azure advisor, they need an adoption advisor. It's more complicated, right? I think that's where we've been uniquely positioned, which is why it represents such a large portion of our business.
Maybe another tough question, but relevant. The number one question I've gotten this week from customers and from partners is, this is very confusing. The licensing is confusing. I've got all kinds of agents out there. Like, how do you explain this to customers in a simple way? The approach.
Yeah, well, and again, that's where the partner comes into play, right? And in a sense, we're telling the client, don't worry about it. So, Microsoft, cover your ears. The idea is, right, the platform can support whatever you want to do. Like, it's there. Like, let's stop talking initially about all of those pieces. Let's talk about what is your business objective? What are we trying to solve for first? And then go back to that conversation about licensing and platform and all that. That if we start with what's it going to cost, then you struggle. If we talk about what are we trying to solve for, and we can make a business case that don't worry about the cost because here's your ROI, right? Adoption extensibility ROI is, as Satya played out, it'll all come together because we're seeing within our clients that, when we see the business value of the agent that we're building, they have no problem getting it funded.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give the example at Microsoft. The first agent we created it's called Ask HR. It is our HR agent across the company. In the past quarter, it was used by 35,000 employees across the company. We've shared publicly before that previously, the amount of inquiries that was getting as just a knowledge retrieval agent, it was requiring 13 FTEs that were just answering questions all day, full-time employees. And with the agent, we've reallocated those to high critical case management rather than the kind of, do we have a holiday next week for Thanksgiving types of questions.
Yeah, and we have some global clients, very large global clients, the same kind of thing. They're using this to build on, in some cases, to expand on some of the out-of-the-box API development, right? Because they want to integrate other sources. They want to leverage the data in different ways from a customer service standpoint, right? So things like, ServiceNow, Workday integration, which is out of the box, in some aspects, right, can be built upon to even further enhance it. So we have some clients who are finding huge time savings, right? And in this case, when you're handling customer support tickets, time savings equals money. So when you can speed up, and shave a minute off of 23,000 cases every month, right, or day, I should say, then you're really driving ROI.
Well, thank you for joining. I mean, the reason that we invited you here is because you are being very successful in this motion. And so I guess I just wonder, what general advice would you share with your fellow partners in how to approach this opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very clear to everyone that this is the future opportunity, right? I think the one thing I would advise is that, right, clients are looking for one single advisor to have this conversation with. So you need to be able to cover the full portfolio of what is necessary. So you really have to have a very strong data governance, security, compliance capability, as well as, right, adoption, right, development for Copilot Studio, and then the ability to then also develop on the Azure OpenAI platform. Because the client, again, they're not thinking about what is the technology, they're thinking about the use case that they want to develop, the agent they want to develop, and they don't want to hear, well, we don't know how to do that because that's not our strength, right? You need another partner. They want you to be that one single partner. So it's not a simple future, right, in a sense for partners, I think, but for partners who can have the breadth of capability across all of that, obviously there's huge opportunity.
Well, thank you very much for joining us this week, for staying till Friday with all of us. But you know, best of luck going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And with that, I'm now going to invite Jojo Wright. She's going to join us here to talk more about go-to-market and the best practices for partners.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hope your Friday is going well. So I just want to take a poll of who's in the room today. Who here is a Jumpstart partner? Yeah, do we have a lot of partners that are part of the Accelerate program as well? All right, so what I'm going to talk about is the partner go-to-market strategy and how we're looking at it within Microsoft. And you heard from our wonderful partner about how he is approaching Copilot extensibility, how he's having those conversations with his customers to determine those key business cases that bring back high value and allow those customers to reach their ROI. So we have 3 phases. We start off with modernize, then we move into the empower, and then the innovate. So during the modernize, that's when we're having those conversations around those use cases. We're taking the scenario library that's out there on our adoption site, and we are modifying and updating it to fit those user cases for your particular customer. When we move down into empower, that's when we're actually building out some of those Copilot agents and then implementing the extensibility. There's a lot of adoption and change management that needs to occur throughout this whole process from modernize, empower, innovate. It's very important to pull in the adoption change management team very early on so you can get feedback from them and they're aware of the upcoming changes that's going to impact their customers. If we move down into the innovate, so after you already got the Copilot agent in place, there's going to be a need to go back and revisit the use cases. As people start leveraging Copilot, and especially Copilot agents, things are going to go off in their head. And they're like, oh, wow, I could do this. I wonder if I can now connect to here. Oh, I heard this is autonomous agent. What can I do? What can I create that can do my work for me on my behalf? So it's very important. It's an iterative process. You're constantly going back, reviewing, looking at your ROI, leveraging your dashboard, your Viva analytics within those dashboards to determine what is working, where do we need to pivot, and what's our next step. These are a lot of scenarios we're seeing in the Copilot Studio go across our departments. Both Thomas talked about it, Steve talked about it with Cyclotron, what we're seeing at customer sites. HR departments, they're building Copilot experience that can handle enrolling benefits, booking time. We have our IT are building additional Copilot experiences for their help desk. We have finance departments helping employees with their budget and expenses. And then even sales and marketing are helping customers explore and select products. So you see with Copilot Studio, you can do business to employee, business to customer, as well as business to business. So if familiar with Copilot Accelerate, here's an overview of our key programs that we have in there. We start off at the top, Copilot Vision and Value. That's when we are identifying those key user scenarios. We're building out the business case here. Now, granted, we're not going to have all the data, so we do have some default data that you can leverage based on our customer zero stories. And one of the customer zeros is Microsoft. So our data is included in there as well. If you want to do your own surveys to pull data to understand what the productivity increase would be, you can leverage our business case builder, insert in your own data to determine what the ROI would be. The next one is the Copilot proof of value. This is a rapid evaluation to accelerate your time to Copilot expansion. This one would be utilized if your customer has already purchased some Copilot licenses and you want to help them evaluate it, validate some of your ROI that you called out from your business case. You will leverage the Copilot proof of value for that one. The last one is Copilot adoption, deployment and adoption accelerator. If you have 1,000 licenses or more, you can leverage the Copilot deployment and adoption accelerator. And this one's a little different from the Copilot proof of value. One, the license starting point is higher. The second piece is this one allows you to actually work on those technical blockers that are at your customer site. So we heard a lot, security governance is extremely important. So you might still have those that you need to deal with. Migration of data, surprising today, this week at Ignite, I heard a lot of stories about things still being on premise. So there's still those opportunities for some of those to migrate their data up. But the good thing about that is when they migrate to the cloud this time, they can put the necessary security and governance in place from the start, and they won't have to go back. So when you move them through Copilot, they can just keep moving forward without any more blockers. The second half of the Copilot deployment adoption is actually the adoption change management. So you're crafting, you're focusing your user adoption stories around those high-value scenarios that you've identified. The Copilot vision and value, proof of value, those high-value scenarios are going to be the personas that use those high-value scenarios. They're going to be your champions within the organization. So creating that center of excellence that was talked about before is key with the Copilot deployment, as when people start deploying, especially when you get over to agents, they're sharing stories. Look what agent I did. Let me show you how I built it out. It's great for that. Now, on the third side, the third column, you see we talk about Microsoft 365 Copilot. We discuss extending Copilot and build custom agents. And the third one is something I'll go a little bit deeper on the next slide, is your role-based agents. And these are your Copilot 365 sales agent, as well as your Copilot 365 service agent. And those two, we have integrations into Dynamics and Salesforce. Right? There's a couple journeys that you could take your customers on. The first one, journey one, you start with the Copilot vision and value. And in that one, you're identifying use cases, which we discussed earlier. We have below a specific Copilot Studio vision and value. And what we're seeing as you're having those conversations in the vision and value, you're identifying your user scenarios. You're also identifying what technologies or Copilot line up to meet the business case for those user scenarios, and you're identifying those that could be resolved with Copilot Studio. So we have a separate Copilot Studio vision and value, so you can go deeper into those conversations. Following that, we have that Copilot proof of value, where you are able to do that rapid evaluation for your Copilot, and then close it out with the Copilot deployment and adoption accelerator. Now, mind you, there's still opportunity in here for our US partners to sell additional services to support these motions. These are just a starting point. Journey two is dealing with the Copilot 365 role-based agent. Again, same starting point, Copilot vision and value, so you're identifying user scenarios. You may have sales and marketing team or customer service team that need integration into the different Dynamics and Salesforce. If you see that, you will move into the Copilot role-based deployment and adoption. And this deployment adoption is crafted specifically for role-based Copilots. So in there, you will see the steps that you need to complete to do the integration work within Salesforce and Dynamics, and also the security governance that needs to be done on the Copilot side, so you can have those two items interacting together. And it's also key, important, adoption change management. You have to educate the end users on what those role-based agents can do. They need to understand the boundaries of those agents, give them examples on what they can do, what they shouldn't be doing with those role-based agents. And then you close out, again, Copilot Deployment Adoption Accelerator. During this time, since you've done the role-based Deployment Adoption Accelerator, you can combine deploying both M365 Copilot as well as your role-based licenses, because you have already set up what's necessary for the integration with the previous workshop. All right, so announcing, we have a new Build Agents module that is gonna start appearing in a few of our workshops. This is gonna be available in the Copilot Studio, Vision of Value, Copilot Proof of Value, Copilot Deployment and Adoption Accelerator. So the part that needs to be defined very early on is which environment you're gonna do this work in, right? So you wanna align on environments early on, obtain and deploy your licenses, determine your scenarios. At this point, it's probably validating the scenarios that you already looked at previously. Build out your agent, and then enable the end users. Again, change management. All right, so moving into publishing through our Partner Center. Do we have any ISVs here in the room? A couple ISVs. So with Copilot Studio, it's interesting with agents. What I'm seeing is there are some system integrators that are taking what they built for their clients and then changing it and then publishing it as an ISV as well to our Partner Center. So we had the Microsoft 365 Copilot program. The first one is the Teams app offer. If you build Teams app, it's the same. It's available where you can attach a SaaS offer to that as well, so you can monetize on it. So agents that are ready to be used by users and available in Microsoft 365 Copilot, you would have to leverage the Teams app offer. The second part is dealing with connectors and agents for Microsoft Copilot Studios. When you build leveraging Copilot Studio in this manner, you are creating a template, more or less, so the end user can start with that template to develop the Copilot agent that will be in alignment for what is needed for that customer. The agents are available in our unified store and app stores across all of our products. And if you go to the browser, you'll see it right there in the app stores as well. As with Teams app, there is a certification process that you need to go through. In the past, for apps that have completed the certification program, they'll be displayed to customers with a badge and filters. We're constantly looking at improving how we are making it easier for IT admins once they purchase your agent to decide whether or not they would like to use that app. We're excited to announce a new capability that ISVs now have the option to make submitted evidence for Microsoft 365 certification program in Program Center. So when the IT admins and Teams Admin Center or Microsoft 365 admin tools, they can see the proof of that your agent passed the certification program, and this allows them to quicker, easily evaluate the apps more efficiently, because as we know, when you get to some customers, they have their own security review before they allow apps to be leveraged in their environment. So this is speeding up the process for the IT admins. All right, take action. If you are not part of the Copilot Accelerate program, join up, look at our partner at Microsoft.com, understand how to grow your business by looking at the Future of Work partner. There's also an AKA link for a Copilot Studio partner. And then take a look at our go-to-market, the Copilot Accelerate Partner Guide, as well as delivered in Copilot Studio Vision and Value. So I'm gonna leave some time here. I'm gonna invite Thomas back up to the stage So we can have a quick Q&A. Please don't get us fired with the questions that you're asking us today.
We have a mic here, or if you want to shout out your question, I can repeat it back through the mic. We just answered every single question. We will never get another question again because of how good we did, Jojo. Look at us.
I know. So has anyone in here built an agent yet? Copilot agent builders? Yeah, we have a few. Okay. How was it for you?
Simple. That's what I want to hear.
Yeah, simple, because we added that new module in for building an agent. And it's like, oh, how much more time is it really going to take? So if you have a good understanding of what your requirements are, you could build agents pretty quickly, right? Like 5-10 minutes if you have your requirements. Yeah. Anyone else want to share agents, questions?
Look at that. Okay, if not, Jojo and I will stick around after the session here, and you can come up and ask your own questions if you'd like. But otherwise, I wish you all safe travels home. Thank you.
All right, thank you all.